Everybody got so quiet. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us. I know most of you would like to be playing hooky, playing out in the sunshine, a beautiful day here in Columbus, but appreciate you all taking the time to be here. I want to thank President Stein for hosting us for today's event, and I want to thank Director Pasciati and the Department of Public Safety for the work they do to support our Columbus police officers, EMS personnel, and firefighters. Thanks again to President Stein and other leadership of Local 67 for hosting us here today, and I want to thank Interim Chief Dave Ball and the Columbus Division of Fire for the life-saving work you do every day for our city. The reason I've asked you all here today is because the women and men of the Columbus Division of Fire need reliable, modern equipment to do their jobs safely and effectively. Director Pasciati and her team take seriously the responsibility to provide our firefighters with the tools they need to do the job. Fire apparatus is a necessity. Columbus firefighters respond to more than 180,000 emergencies a year. We have 50 trucks in our fleet to help them do the job. And when someone calls 911, we owe it to our firefighters and our residents to ensure they have the equipment that they need. Our fleet is presently sufficient for our needs, but I know that our fire apparatus is aging. Since the pandemic, the time it takes to buy fire trucks and ambulances has grown significantly, and costs have skyrocketed. And so we're planning accordingly. In the past, we've included $6 million a year in our capital budget for fire apparatus. In 2023 and 2024, that number grew to $10 million. But based on our partnership and collaboration with Local 67, in 2025, we raised it again to $15 million. One of the things that budget afforded us is a new pumper truck. Late last year, Director Pasciati and her colleagues conducted a fair and competitive procurement process to purchase one. They evaluated options and selected the proposal that offered both the lowest cost to taxpayers and the fastest delivery timeline. That proposal came from Sutphen, located here in Central Ohio. The Sutphen proposal was not only $36,000 less than our next best option, but the build time was 10 to 12 months faster. A chance to get this pumper truck into our hands and onto our streets sooner. Legislation to move into contract with Sutphen, Ordinance 0496-2026, was approved by the Director's Office back on February 19th of this year. The legislation was routed through our Department of Finance and the City Attorney's Office, as all legislation does, and finished the full approval process back on March 10th. Director Pasciati and her colleagues communicated frequently with Council as legislation advanced in February and March and heard no concerns. This legislation was supposed to be voted on by Council on March 23rd. A few days before the ordinance was to be on second reading, it was pulled from the agenda, and it was listed held at Council in the system. It has remained in that status ever since. This legislation has been with City Council for 55 days, and now time is working against us. The current pricing for this truck expires on May 18th. If we lose this bid, we could see increased costs and longer delivery timelines. I know there's an ongoing labor dispute involving the manufacturer. We respect the collective bargaining process and support workers' rights. But today, I'm asking Council to help us move this purchase forward. Our responsibility as leaders is to protect public safety. That responsibility cannot be put on hold for a moment, let alone 55 days. We respect the ongoing labor situation, but we can't pause public safety. Our responsibility is to make sure our firefighters are equipped and ready. Each day that Council holds this legislation increases risk. Risk to timelines, risk to cost, and ultimately risk to readiness. I am asking them to proceed and do the right thing for our community. My administration is ready to move forward immediately. I'm asking for the legislation to advance so we can lock in pricing, maintain our timeline, and ensure that the women and men of the Columbus Division of Fire remain fully prepared to serve the people of Columbus. This is about delivering for our residents and making sure that when they call for help, we are ready. With that, I'll turn things over to Interim Chief Dave Ball. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for being here. When firefighters respond to an emergency, they depend on their equipment to work every time. A fire engine isn't just a vehicle, it's a lifeline. I want to make clear that there's no gap in our ability to respond today. But right now, our backup units are being used almost as much as our front line. That means that we're relying more and more on aging equipment to protect our community. At the same time, it takes nearly 2 years to receive a new engine after it's ordered. So the decisions we make today directly impact our ability to respond tomorrow. As these trucks age, they become harder and harder to maintain, more expensive to repair, and less reliable when we need them the most. This isn't about convenience, it's about safety for our firefighters and for the people that we serve. Delaying replacement only increases cost and risk. Staying on schedule ensures that we can continue delivering the level of service our community expects. And I want to thank Mayor Ginther for his support in helping to keep our fleet strong and our firefighters ready. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Now turn it over to IFF Local 67 President Steve Stein. Thanks, Chief.
Mayor Ginther, thank you for convening this press conference here and being here today with us. And we certainly echo that call and a lot of those sentiments, and Interim Chief Ball as well, and Director Pashotti and her team here. I think one of the things I would offer too is, this press conference really isn't just about a single fire engine. It's, you look at the policy decisions that have led to the fire apparatus fleet crisis that we find ourselves in. And while the mayor is right, Columbus firefighters are responding right now, every single day. We are having to work harder and find more workarounds to do so and deliver for the citizens of Columbus. The mayor aptly pointed out, 55 days this legislation's been sitting here for a fire truck. 66 days ago, Columbus firefighters responded to a fire with multiple victims, affected 2 rescues, and did so in a different type of apparatus than what would originally be required to effect those rescues. One of those people succumbed to their injuries, and the other person's alive today because those firefighters in the 2nd and 3rd Battalion went above and beyond and did so without the equipment that we normally rely on every single day. Let that sink in while this council debates whether or not to buy a fire truck. This is the 3rd press conference I've participated in with the mayor this year. The first 2 were about innovating our EMS response and nurse triage. I again did a press conference with City Council about alternative response objectives and goals, and you know, those things are great. We're ready to be a partner and work towards all those things. But we cannot innovate our response if we don't have anything to respond in. We can't innovate our response if we're not fully staffed and ready to go. Innovation doesn't mean reducing our response force. It doesn't mean reducing staffing. It means being more agile and more effective to meet the growing demands and complexities of the citizens of Columbus. You know, the Columbus Firefighters Union will be back at the bargaining table this summer, and we'll be negotiating with the Mayor's administration, Interim Chief Ball, the Department of Public Safety, and we have some very real substantive challenges to tackle as it pertains to our EMS deployment and the future of fire and EMS response here in this city. But to do that, we need the tools to do our job and keep the public safe. And that's a big part about what today's press conference is about. You know, the issue of funding this single engine, in my view, is symptomatic of a larger disconnect for resource readiness, specifically for the Division of Fire. Apparatus costs have increased over 120% in the last 12 years. Think about that. This bond money that we're trying to use, that we're trying to prioritize for funding, we're able to buy less and less equipment with it each and every cycle. You know, we have a lot of good friends on council. We really do. They've been there for us time and time again. But myself, as president of this union, and my executive board members that are here with me today that also serve on the Columbus Division of Fire, we were not elected by our fellow board members to make friends. We were elected to advocate unapologetically to get the tools and resources for our firefighters to go do a dangerous job and get home safely to their families, so we can protect our neighbors in our neighborhoods across this city that we care about so much. So today, we are calling on council to work with this administration, not only order this engine, but follow the existing Division of Support Services Bureau's recommendations in city fleet services. Let's take delivery of 5 engines, 2 ladders, 8 medics on an annual basis. These things we have to plan for. These problems are only going to get worse if we don't take action. So I commend the mayor and the interim chief for joining me today and asking council to take a step towards this action. So to that end, please, I'm calling on council. Lead like we know you can, and do what you said you'd promise you'd do when you asked for our support. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you. So, message is pretty simple. It's time to act. Our firefighters put their lives on the line every day, responding to calls for service throughout this community. We owe it to them, their families, and our neighbors to get them the resources and support they need to do that. 55 days is long enough. The time to act is now. Be happy to answer any questions for myself, President Stein, or Chief Ball.
Aaron Steinbeck here with ABC6. Obviously, the department wants more resources than just one new fire truck. What are we looking at when it comes to maybe trucks, vehicles, different equipment that is needed desperately at this point?
Yeah, we've been working closely with the department, the Division of Fire, and Local 67. I mentioned how we've increased in our capital budget pretty significantly over the last few years, the investments needed for apparatus. My guess is our calls for service, whether EMS or fire response, have never gone down. We continue to grow as a city. And why getting this pump truck and other fire apparatus ordered as quickly as possible is it's taking longer and longer for these things to be delivered. And so by waiting these 55 days, now we're looking at potentially losing the price that was bid, costing more if we don't enter into a contract by May. It'll also delay the delivery to the Columbus Division of Fire. And so we're going to continue to invest, but it's really important for council to act.
Last year, your administration, Deputy Director Speaks, acknowledged that council was right to be wary of contracting with Sutphen when they said they couldn't deliver last year's fire engine on time. Why are you confident that Sutphen can deliver this ladder truck on time?
You know, I'll let Deputy Director Speaks, he's in the back here. If he wants to come forward, he could speak to that. But we have full confidence, a good amount of the fleet and partnerships that we've had with Suffolk have been delivered on time and on budget. But Deputy Director Speaks, you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Mayor. Last year, we remedied that issue with what's called a liquidated damage clause, that if Suffolk was late, they would have to pay damages. This bid was significantly different. In this bid, Suffolk is 10 to 12 months sooner delivery. Secondly, if you recall, we purchased 5 apparatus a while back from Suffolk. 2 of those apparatus was just delivered, and we expect the other 3 to be delivered soon. Therefore, we do have confidence in their delivery.
You mentioned the ongoing labor dispute. While the employees are no longer on strike, they are not working on a contract. Are there any concerns that they could walk off the job during this and then further delay this truck if this moves forward?
I know President Stein just spoke with the Teamster leadership, just any insight.
You know, look, I think it's no secret when you look at how negotiations have transpired or not transpired over at the Sutphen Corporation, a lot of room for improvement. And, you know, our message has been consistent the entire time. We urge the Teamsters and the Sutphen Corporation to sit down and strike a deal and get something done. Because at the end of the day, yeah, I understand you got a business to run and you do have a collective bargaining agreement that you need to bargain for your members. We have firefighters and citizens we got to protect, and we're only putting them in danger by delaying this equipment. And so, you know, like we said, we're standing there in solidarity with the Teamsters. We have a great working relationship with Sutphen. I'm fully confident, you know, where there's a will, there's a way. They can get a deal done here and not delay any further us getting the trucks and tools we need.
Mayor and your administration, how have you asked council for this before escalating to a public call?
Well, I'll let Deputy Director Speaks. I know that there has been constant meetings, communications, and really pushing this and outlining to council if this didn't move forward, if this legislation didn't move forward, obviously it could end up, in all likelihood, costing us more. Nothing is getting cheaper out there the longer you wait to purchase it right now, and any type of fire apparatus is in line with that. But it also will just delay how much time it will take to deliver the product. Deputy Director, you must speak to that.
Thank you, Mayor. As soon as these bids were in, we notified council of the great disparity in bids that Suffolk could not only deliver cheaper, but much quicker, again, 10 to 12 months. We have weekly legislative meetings. Specifically, the legislation here was drafted on February 17th, and as the mayor said, would go to council on 3/23. In between there, at our weekly meetings, we discussed this at our weekly public safety meeting on February 19th. We discussed it on February 26th, March 5th, and again March 12th. So continuous throughout.
What has been the holdup that council has been conveying to your administration?
There was nothing specifically conveyed. I think you'll have to ask that question to council.
Mayor, in the interim, why not, while like this is going on, they still have a contract, go through a different company other than Suffolk?
Well, the only other bidder on this bid was nearly $40,000 more and was going to take 10 to 12 months longer. I think the firefighters of this community, the taxpayers of this community, and the neighbors we serve need council to act.
Is it difficult to do so when Suffolk is regionally one of the only real manufacturers out there as an option, and the fact that they're so local? Is that also a factor?
Well, it is wonderful that we do have a local that makes maintenance far easier. We have been contracting with Suffolk since the 1960s. I believe that we've purchased over 150 apparatus from that company. So I believe we have full confidence in the quality of the apparatus.
In March of last year, we talked about how dozens of vehicles needed to be replaced right then. We're a year later. How close are we to getting to a point where this could be impacting public safety if we don't get the vehicles we need right now?
Chief Paul, you want to speak to that?
So right now, we don't have an issue to respond to incidents. but we're trying to be proactive with our purchasing plan. And as vehicles age, compounded by the time that it takes for a vehicle to be delivered, we're being proactive to make sure that we don't get into an emergency situation where we don't have the apparatus that we need by ordering in a timely replacement schedule. Because the longer we wait, the more engines will need to be replaced, which will eventually lead to us having to commit more dollars at a time instead of sticking to a timely replacement schedule. And this is part of that replacement schedule.
And I think the frustrating part, and I'll let President Stein speak to this as well. We've done all this work. We've increased the amount in the capital budget for fire apparatus pretty dramatically over the last couple of years, but we can't get a contract, be authorized to enter into contract to get said fire apparatus. The money is there. Literally, the money is sitting there, and we are ready to act immediately. But we need council to do the right thing and act. President Stein?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, I would echo those points. And, Isabel, I think to your question, we said a year ago when we really kind of first raised this issue, we're not really interested in litigating how we got here, who did or didn't do this, that, or the other, because a lot of this predates some of the people that are standing up here. What we're interested in is coming up with a plan that's going to be sustainable, that meets the litany of demands placed upon this city, but also doesn't delay our folks getting the tools and resources they need to go do a dangerous job.
Thank you.